I am the Reading Rainbow Emperor, and today I'm going to be discussing our readings for the past 2 weeks. Bet you didn't expect that, did you? I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good. I was the cleanest gym in my district. Nothing is beyond my power. So let's talk about Shield Hero and Goblin Slayer, shall we? Oh, look at this. Oh, yeah, I'm ready to do some literature, guys. I haven't even had any caffeine in 4 hours. Anyway, so if you haven't seen my two videos, I'll put the links down in the doobly doo. There's quite a difference between these two, aren't there? I think so. Indeed. What is one of the biggest differences here? Is it the artwork? Because Goblin Slayer beats that. Like, I mean, come on. Let's like take a look at this. Take a look at this stuff right here. Look at this dude. Look at this. Can you tell that's misery? And then you look at this just a couple pages later. Emotional problems still there, but kind of gone. I swear. And then here's the big dramatic moment. It's actually quite bothersome to me, this piece of art, because it's like her hair. What's her hair doing? Like it's like, and then there's that darkness right there, and it's like I dig it. It's the darkness that she's kind of driving out of him, and then here's the light. It's all very metaphorical, but it doesn't work for me because the hair is so weird. Like, so the focus of the art piece is on this dramatic moment with certain things highlighting the. I'm doing this off the camera in case you can't tell. Highlighting certain things off the emotional relevance of the story. In other words, these are the balancing act to this emotional piece. The problem is that it would have been better for her hair to either like fall behind her and not be there, or just like be less crazy. Like, this isn't as bad as this stuff right here. So you have, relatively poor composition, you have obvious symbolism, and honestly, the art's not that great. Uh, it's not something I'd put in the background. You see, that's my standard for art. There's two sort of types of art. There's the art that you kind of want all the time, that's very serviceable, and the art that you kind of want on your backroom wall. Like, say, this dude right there, and that dude behind my head. He moves whenever I look away. Now, compare it to Goblin Slayer. You see this so much better. And why is it better? Is it because it's a fundamentally better art style? No, it's better because of composition. You have the safe haven going away. You have the character designs. Each character is unique, and it has features that you can remember. Do you remember anything about Raftalia, like that she was wearing? No, you remember the fact that she's a raccoon or a red panda or whatever she is. Trash panda. There we go. Waifu tier. Trash panda. Fight me. Anyway, I'm just having fun tonight. This is all this is. So then you get this dude right here, clearly in leadership role. She's clearly into him. She's clearly not amused by any of the romantic tension that's developing between them. And she's actually scared. It enhances the story. It is not simply a set piece. It is not a design to double the impact of any particular event, like the Rising of the Shiro here is, which is where the emotional climax is. But then there's other pieces. Let's see here. It's stuff like this, where you can clearly see the character of the person doing it, where you can't always see that in the Shield Hero arts. and also like it just keeps the design better. Like, I don't know, it feels more like a lived in world. I can't really remember much about Reception Girl, but it's like she's also not really a memorable character by design. But then there's Elf Priestess and, all these people here. Every single one of them is doing something. They're not just sitting around eating. It's not just bad table manners. There's the Two Moons. It's not just like a restaurant with nothing in it. You know what I mean? And I think that really does apply to the writing as well. Like, the amount of care that went into the writing of Shield Hero is about on par as somebody probably put into the art, and not in the sense of things going anywhere, but just in general. Then there's things like this. It's like, why? Like, it's like, this is just an action scene. This isn't what the characters actually do. The dog isn't somewhere behind them doing it. Rather, the dog is facing them and they're facing this. And it's obvious, of course, I'm not being stupid here. Maybe I am being stupid, but it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. Maybe it's because I don't like the book. Or maybe it's because I don't like. Fooled you, it's still right here. Um, or maybe it's because, I don't think much of it. Like, it's like these are fundamentally the same basic design for their covers, right? Think about it. You have the dramatic person in the back and the main character in the front. And then, because there's a romantic thing in here, she's behind him. She's got his back. But Goblin Slayer's got her back. You see, it's all deep art that never goes anywhere. But I don't have other volumes of Shield Hero. Instead, I've got these other volumes of Goblin Slayer. So, as you can tell, they continue on with the Hawk Girl on front, with the Goblin Slayer behind, and he's slowly turning towards you, because he knows you're a basement dwelling goblin. Excuse me. But in a more serious matter, you can tell a bit more about personality and design and other things like that, about these characters. I still remember the fact that she has a cape and these weird sort of thigh-high stocking boot things that aren't fetishistic, by the way. I mean that literally. But it's like, wow, what can you do about it? So you do that, you go again, and hey, look, she's let her hair down, and she's actually showing emotion. How that isn't like depression. Other people are showing emotion that isn't depression. Wowie zowie. Hmm. I'm probably going to write my way through it. This is also a hilarious scene where she's like, I gotta find armor for a man. I don't know. Maybe I should try this bikini armor, show off my bod for a bit. What about this armor? It's like, well, your armor's practical, and I think that's good in a woman. It's like, thank you, Goblin Slayer. You know exactly what to say. What is it? What is it exactly? Hmm. There we go. Hey, Goblin Slayer. Hey, kind of. Wait, hold on. There we go. It kind of kills me to ask you this, but female Night Gulp, and this seemed to embarrass her. So maybe she's more of a contralto. If I wear something like that, do you think it'd get his attention? I confess, I must doubt the sanity of anyone who would ask me that question. If you want to launch a surprise attack, you need to charge it up. Huh? Trying similar things again and again will have little effort, at least in goblin slaying. I'm not asking about goblin slaying. He continued dispassionately. He really had nothing to draw on but his own experience. You're talking about clothes. You normally wear armor, so get away from that. Wear civilian clothes. Civilian clothes? I'll think about it. It's great. Uh, there's another one, though. There's a better one. I don't know whether that's in the. Or maybe I'm going too soon. I don't know. I'm just relaxing. I've been working 10 hours a day for a while. You really think any guys out there are waiting for a girl who can take down a troll or a dragon with one swipe of her blade? Aren't there? Well, what would you think of a woman like that? That she must be quite reliable. There we go. That's clever. And it's in character. And it's oh so fine. Do you remember any clever turns of phrases like that in Shield Hero? Let's see here. Let's see here. Alright, so here's the thing. People are talking about Raftalia growing up. It's like, been a while. My memory has failed me. This is the shopkeeper, who I've decided is, a reformed pimp. But you have certainly grown into a free woman, haven't you? With the voice of Morgan Freeman, because he's pimping. Huh? Huh? I had no idea what he was talking about. Old guy was talking nonsense. Yeah, and you filled up a little too. You were all skin and bones the last time I saw you. I don't think that's Morgan Freeman. Hey, now watch how you say that. Raftalia was rubbing her hands together and laughing as she answered. Ugh, that attitude would drive me nuts. It reminded me of her. Gah, gah, you really raised her to be cute. If I was 20 years younger and still in the projects. Still had my pimp cane and pimp shoes. Raised her. She just leveled up. And now, you get into the weird. She's not really 8. She's actually levels 18. She was born 8 years ago, though. But she's level 18, guys. That's what matters. I hate this thing so much. You don't even understand. She had stopped coughing. The medicine I'd been giving her must have had an effect, and that's so clinical. It's bothersome to me. What have you been up to this week? Just fighting? One of the innkeepers taught me about table manners because I want to eat properly, like Mr. Naofumi. Guess everything is going well then. Uh-huh. The old guy seemed to be in a real chipper mood. So the other characters met at a shop, right? They they discuss things. They talk about love and a few other things like that. And Goblin Slayer doesn't get it because that's his character. He's Goblin Slayer, and so he's weaponized autism. So she talks to him about things. It's like, well, I'm insecure about the fact that I can kill dragons one-handed. Okay, that doesn't sound like a problem to me, right? But it could intimidate the guys. I think it's reliable. It's one of those things. Like, well, he said it differently. He's like, I think that would be quite reliable. He probably said it like that. I don't know if it showed up in the anime because I kind of just prefer the. But it's clever. It's funny. It's funny. It is within his character, and it is a funny, clever thing that you can remember. I saw this in a meme, and I found it. Like I don't do that with Shield Hero. Then Shield Hero has something similar, and the only reason it might even be possibly funny is because I gave him the voice of Morgan Freeman, or at least my passable imitation of it. let's try something else. Maybe, and it's like this isn't really funny. Like this isn't a funny book. There's no real comedy in it. There's some comedy with the scene where he tames things and bites them, and if they refuse him service, he throws them at him, which is criminal. But whatever, like I guess they should just believe their king who spends all his time and effort supposedly protecting and serving them. Like like the thing about rulership is that Japanese people don't understand it. They think of it in shogun and emperor terms, which is a different fundamental thing. In kingly societies, most kings they have as much responsibility as to the people as they have to the as the people have to them. Taxes go up, responsibilities and land goes down. That's how it works. And in a Christian society, which is what they based it on, fantasy Christian, fantasy European, people could say, but it's you can't separate the term. Pet post 800, but it's 80. Hmm, but it's like this. It goes through it, and it's like Raftalia has a nightmare, and he just pats her till she does it. Um, it doesn't do anything. Like it's just that. Um, and he just talks about it. Even if it was what was she so afraid of? I didn't plan on asking her. It must have been that her parents had sold her off, that her parents sold her off, or that she was taken away, which doesn't have any real meter to it. Even if it was the latter, I didn't need to return her. It's not like I'd stolen her. I'd paid a hefty price for her service. She could hate me if she wanted. I needed to stay alive. I had to find a way back home, and that's all right. That's not like fundamentally, foundationally, that's not a bad sentiment to have. It's like, what do I care? I need to get home. But the problem is that what are his values? Well, he doesn't view her as a person. She's a commodity. It makes him a more if you think about people as a continuum, not as locked into their past. Like I am not locked into my past. I am the Ben of now. I am the emperor of now. But I'm not the emperor of the past. In fact, I called myself a king before. And I played a game called Cardfight Vanguard, and I had shops I dominated. It was fun. They gave me tribute, and I gave them tribute. Not tribute as in, sorry, not tribute, gifts. They gave me tribute. I gave them gifts. I bought boxes for them and distributed the packs, that sort of thing. And it made me feel like a king. But that's not the me of now. I have no desire to do that. Instead, in the gym I manage, I plan on hitting very high numbers on my cleanliness reports, which I already have. And then, when I get the bonuses from it, I plan on making sure that these bonuses are also distributed into the pay of my minions. And so they will receive from me the benefits of my leadership, even as I receive the benefits of their hard work. Again, that king down and above. But he doesn't think like that. He doesn't understand that. He's just on him. And that's all right. He's had a traumatic experience. But the problem is that it's consuming him. And while that might make him a compassionate figure, it doesn't really give him any leeway if you came in at this point and saw what he was doing. You see, what's the difference between treating him like a slave and then accusing him of rape and taking away all he had, and him buying a slave and then potentially having her taken away from him or freed, which is what happens at the end? Like what's there for him to grow into? Oh, well, he was experiencing so much pain and hurt. You see, in 24 hours in a day, I think about a lot of things. I think about my character, my troubles, my ideas of how I should write, what I should say, and how I should say it. Um, he spends even while I'm cleaning very heavy objects, I'm lifting up treadmills and I'm directing people and wiping down bathrooms and all that jazz because I'm not afraid to get myself dirty. I go through a lot, and I'm an active thinker. This guy, maybe he's not as active as I am. maybe. Oh wait, is that poetry? Was that poetry? Hold on a second. Maybe he's. But the thing is that he's not spinning it, or he's only spinning it in spirals. And it's like, I don't know if I like that. Not because it's unfortunate. No, this isn't poetry. But it's actually, here's the thing. In the records of the four holy weapons, it said the spear hero thinks deeply of his friends. It's like, so in other words, people are thinking. In this story, time exists. But what does it mean? Does it have a meaning? Will it have a meaning? Will it come to anything? And the answer, unfortunately, is no, because people keep trying to screw this guy over. I think they're on the evil fantasy pope or something, which is like, again, because no Japanese people don't really understand religion. They like get KFC on Christmas, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna knock it, but it's like it's weird. Typical Japanese, I guess. What meaning can it have? They don't even mention a religion in most of this stuff. And what they do is it doesn't have the detail. It's like Game of Thrones. George R. R. Martin doesn't understand religion. He doesn't understand miracles. He thinks it's just a way to do magic, but it's not magic. Aslan is not a tame lion. If you have a god that answers to your commands, he's not a god, but a servant. I bet the god's going to turn out to be like the Dark Lord or something. But let's take a look at Goblin Slayer in contrast to him and his writing. Just because I don't want to end this on an unpleasant note with an unpleasant character with an unpleasant story. Goblin Slayer's past is sordid. Sordid as all get out. And it's the sort of sordid that just never goes away. Not because, something wrong happened to you, but because his family was murdered. All of them. Except for, of course, I mean all in the direct bloodline, is what I mean. His cousin survived, and he has an uncle. But, his mother, his father, his sister. His sister died saving him. Like, how much, worse is that? Um, it's, something that tears out a man's heart. Especially if he's rendered powerless and has to see all the horrible things the goblins did to him. That's actually traumatic. That is real trauma. It isn't someone screwing you over once, as traumatic as that might be. It isn't people getting angry at you. It's some dude who's stuck with the memories, and he can never get rid of them. And it made him who he was. But the thing is, it didn't make him weak. I mean, sure, he was sad. Everyone is sad after a problem. By the way, character design. Each one is instantly recognizable by their silhouette. Kid you not. As weird as it is, once you see let's say that we blank out the faces, right? And like, only of all the females there, that Cowgirl wears overalls. But then can't name anything that Raftalia wears. I still don't remember. It's like some sort of weird armor. But it's like Spear Dude, all of them recognizable. There's Goblin Slayer's single glowing eye. It just keeps going. I could go on forever about that sort of thing, just because it's important. It's very important. You have to have something people remember, whether it's something like Menelaus Montrose's hook nose, because he has red hair. Like in the Count de Escadon series, like Menelaus Montrose is a redhead, but it never comes up. Instead, it's all about his crooked nose, something to remember him by. So with Goblin Slayer, you have something similar. Shield Hero, not so much. But then we look at the trauma. It's in the past. Goblin Slayer doesn't really think about it. He doesn't worry about it. He knows it's in the past. If you asked him about it, he'd probably say, goblins. Or he's like, goblins. Or, something. He wouldn't like break down in tears. He wouldn't get silent. He would probably get silent just because it is a traumatic event. But it wouldn't send him into a spiral of self-depreciation and self-loathing and hatred and misery and depression and all those other horrible things that it would Shield Hero. And the writing backs it up, not because there's any specific words into Goblin Slayer's head. That's actually a very good thing. Uh, but because we see how he reacts with other people. He's he's careful. He always wears his armor. He doesn't really touch people. Um, or if he does, it's to help them or to do something specific, and only through his palms. Interestingly enough, he goes on some dates with some people. I think sometime, I can't remember, maybe in the second book, and basically, yeah, in the second, I want to say second book, maybe it was third book. I don't know. It was in the anime. Uh, he goes on some dates with people, and they still only, you know, sort of don't touch. There's no hugging, that sort of thing going around. It's a very realistic portrayal of somebody who has experienced a vast amount of trauma in his past and in his life. Um, I can only speak for myself, but a lot of that stuff, I don't like touching people except through the palms of my hands. And if it's a hug, I kind of don't want to touch people. It's very uncomfortable for me. Not that I've been through what Goblin Slayer has, but it's a sign. It's a sign of a lot of things. One of the things I plan on doing is writing a horror novel, set it with characters in like what's the word I want? There it is. Let's see. Is there any other pictures of this? Set it in like a manner, and then basically have it as a way that if you read this horror novel, you will understand how abusers work and think. Not in the sense of it's a guideline, but in the sense of, oh, that person's doing it too. Gaslighting, for example. Certain ways of touching or speaking to people in other ways. All 1,000 ways you can speak. Make them feel special. Make them feel like they're getting something from you that they get from nobody else. And then abuse that relationship, among other things. I've read quite a few books, including The Last Closet by Moira Graylin Pete, who, if you are a praying person, she has gone through a deep personal tragedy, if you would pray for her as well, where she describes what her parents did to her and to her siblings, and how her brother, who by all accounts was a nice guy in a terrible situation, was favored over her by her mother, and caused all sorts of trouble. Not because he caused trouble, but rather the favoritism caused trouble. Then we have, um, things like secret knowledge, showing off a toy that you can help one person to show how smart they are, how smart a boy they are. But the point is to write it, not because I want to create a character who's so full of self-loathing and self-hatred and depression and all that jazz, but because I want to see how somebody can overcome it, how faith can help, how random circumstance to help. What's the element of demons and evil and the other things? Like, in a sense, goblins, except different. Are not goblins just a faceless and almost nameless evil that just simply will never quit, always grows in the shadows? And they can only be destroyed by having a grim, single-minded determination to destroy those holdouts, those desires, those sins, if you will, that affect you in your life. It's almost like this book series has meaning. It almost as if it's noumenal in a way. It's like its writing can lead to deeper truths and deeper ideas that may not become apparent easily. I'm not a big fan of turning everything, oh, what would I do in here? But I understand that there's a certain time and place for a lot of this stuff. Just because if you can't pull meaning from something, or you can't pull enjoyment from it, then it's not worth reading. Writing should be for two things: enjoyment and learning, and preferably both at the same time, not in some edutainment nonsense, but in the sense of one can learn heroism and chivalry from the stories of King Arthur's knights and from books of war and strategy like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. How to be clever without being too clever. I actually really like the elf's design. It's great. Oh boy, we added an elf to our party. What do you use for? Everyone just looks at her. It's like emergency food supply. No, that's the harpy. But chicken wings. But the writing here, I already showed you some examples of where something gets clever and where something doesn't. I saw a picture of somebody crying. It almost broke the heart. Let's see here. So he's attacked by something. It's a dagger. It's a poison dagger. He attacks the guild girl. I don't know, but it's like, and he's some sort of angry incel too. It's great. Why does he all get to keep the girls to himself? He rose like a specter, still riddled with darts. His sword was buried in the attacker's viscera, having neatly found a gap in the opponent's leather armor. He tore violently through the man's innards, causing their former aggressor to cough and choke. The body fell backward, twitching, losing blood and strength. Goblin Slayer snorted, bracing his foot against the bloodied form as he pulled the sword out. The attacker gave one last raw cough, then lay still. Guild Girl's voice trembled. Goblin Slayer? Yes. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I wear chainmail under my armor, he said matter-of-factly, gently pushing away Guild Girl as she frantically tried to come close. A simple dart can't penetrate it. It should be cannot, because then it would be a measure. A simple dart can't or cannot penetrate it. I don't know if that made sense to you. It makes sense to me. Sorry. Why am I saying sorry? You're here to listen to me ramble. So he grabbed the barbs and pulled them out of his armor. The tips were drenched in something, presumably the same liquid fluid that had coated the dagger. The Goblin Slayer said disinterestedly, "He was a quick one. With my skill, I could not have beaten him." That meant that, to him at least, the obvious solution had been a sneak attack. He could not win in a fair fight, so he didn't engage in one. But Guild Girl did not entirely sympathize with this perspective. I thought you were dead." Even as she spoke, tears beaded in her eyes and ran down her cheeks. Once they had started, there was no stopping them. Confronted with the sobbing girl, Goblin Slayer could muster only hurt. He shook the blood off his sword to distract himself. "I'm sorry." If you have to apologize, you shouldn't do it to begin with." "I won't." Goblin Slayer nodded, and then with the tip of his sword he slid off the attacker's mask. Is he a dark elf? That I don't know. And so on and so forth. That has more to it. That has more emotion to it than a lot of the stuff the despair and all that jazz I see in Shield Hero. Like, Shield Hero's the best of the worst, but that doesn't mean it's worth reading. The best of the worst isn't worth reading. neither is any movie that's best of the worst worth watching. The things that are good watches in the sense of the worst are those things that we call B movies. Those things where you like getting around some friends and just giggling whenever Nick Cage freaks out because it makes it so much better. But then boring characters with boring ideas and boring plot line with one or two twists that are any sort of craftsmanship like, in the same way that an IKEA shelf made by a one armed incompetent is. I'm sure that one armed people can make shelves just fine. I'm saying it's one who can't make a shelf. You get your foot in there, you hold it steadily with one hand, maybe get some books to hold it up, get a bionic arm. But if anyone here is one-handed, I'm not. All right, I can talk again. Shield Hero being the best of the worst is an insult. It's not something worth reading. It's barely interesting for somebody like myself who has read much and seen much and desires much. It's worse than popcorn. You see, some things are popcorn. It is enjoyable to eat popcorn. I love popcorn. I always buy it at the movie theater, despite the incredible markup. But it's not the same as something actually nutritious. Those lines had more nutrition in them, literary style, than most of Shield Hero, than all the despair of Naofumi. It has more character design than Naofumi. It has more description, but it's not like the description of what worthless things. It has the right description. I'm sure it had more if I bothered to read earlier into it, but with the picture and everything like that, they actually enhance it. Whereas the Shield Hero one doesn't do anything of the sort. In fact, it just sort of sticks there with her hair flying everywhere, even though, everyone else is motionless. And it's all weird. Like it's not flowing right, and it throws somebody off if you're looking for it. I like long hair. It doesn't float like that. It's it's weeb trash is what it is. But Goblin Slayer, I'll recommend forever and a day. Just for that sweet, sweet elf. No, just because it's actually a better book. Just buy Goblin Slayer. Read Goblin Slayer. Get the blood and guts in you. Learn what an actual hero is, and not somebody who's just clinically depressed and unwilling to talk. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna stop now so I don't pop a blood vessel and say something that'll get my fledgling channel banned. Or, it's like get the hate mob on you. This ableist says that one-armed people can't make IKEA shelves. Like, comment, and subscribe if I tickled your fancy. This is just a real light video. I had fun with it. Um, I'll be making more serious videos soon, including some readings, and I've written and recorded a review for Friday. Unless it comes out Saturday. It might come out Saturday, but, it's... Wait, I can time it out. Or I could just upload Saturday. Anyway, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, because you are all wonderful.